In this movie, I'll show you how to expand the canvas to accommodate a new layer, and along the way, I'll also show you how to change Photoshop's unit of measure. So if I turn off the wing number 1 layer here, you can see that our big problem at this point is that we don't have enough room for those wings. We need to add some more height to this image, and the easiest way to pull that off is with the crop tool. So I'll go ahead and turn that layer back on, and then I'll zoom out by pressing Control- or Command- on the Mac a couple of times. And then I'll switch to the crop tool, which, as you may recall, has a keyboard shortcut of C. Next, I'll drag up on the top of the crop boundary like so. And incidentally, up here in the options bar, make sure that the content aware checkbox is turned off. If it's turned on, Photoshop will try to add more information up here at the top of the image. We want it to be blank. The setting for delete crop pixels doesn't really matter because we're not cropping the image, we're effectively uncropping it, so we're not getting rid of anything. The one problem we have, however, is with the unit of measure. Notice that height value in the heads-up display. In my case, it's appearing in inches. Now, the problem with inches and millimeters and other physical units of measure is that they only apply to print. They don't matter for screen graphics, whether we're talking about the web, device, or what have you. Which is why I prefer to work with a 1 unit of measure in Photoshop that translates to everything, and that is pixels. Unfortunately, you can't change the unit of measure in the middle of a crop operation, so I'll go ahead and press the Escape key in order to abandon that crop boundary. And then what you want to do is go to the window menu and choose the Info command in order to bring up the Info panel. Now notice these X and Y values, which are currently both set to 0. Notice there's a little cross right next to those values and a tiny triangle next to that crop. Anytime you see a triangle next to an icon, whether it's up here in the options bar or it's next to one of the tool icons here inside the toolbox, that means that clicking and holding on that item is going to bring up a pop-up menu. And so notice if I click and hold here, I'm seeing a bunch of units of measurement starting with pixels. And so I'll go with pixels, which once again applies to print and screen graphics. And then I'll hide my info panel. And now I'll go ahead and drag upward on this crop boundary once again. Now the height value I'm looking for, based on my experience with this graphic, is 1894 pixels. But I'm not able to get to it, and that's because I'm zoomed too far out. So I'll just go ahead and drag this down a little bit, and then I'll switch to Photoshop's most accurate zoom level, which is 100%, by pressing Control- or Command- on the Mac, and then I'll press the space bar and drag this guy down. And once I can see the top of the boundary once again, I'll go ahead and drag this guy upward until I see a value of 1894 pixels, at which point I'll release, and then I'll press the Enter key or the Return key on the Mac to apply that change. All right, now that I finish expanding the canvas, just to make sure I don't mess anything up, I'll switch away from the crop tool. And the rectangular marquee tool is generally a good way to go. And then I'll press Control- or Command- on the Mac to zoom out. Now we need to fill this transparency up here at the top of the image with white. And the best way to do that is to create a new background layer. And that happens to be a 2-step operation. First, you want to click on the little page icon at the bottom of the Layers panel. That creates an unnamed layer, but we don't really care about that. And then go up to the Layer menu, choose New, and choose Background from Layer. Now that ends up filling this new background, which you can see down here at the bottom of the Layers panel. That fills that background with black, and that's because, as you can see down here at the bottom of the toolbox, black is currently my background color. That's not what I want, so I'll press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac to undo the conversion of that layer. And then I'll restore the default colors, which you can do by clicking on this tiny little default icon here, or you can just press that keyboard shortcut, which is D for default. And that'll switch the background color to white. Then return to the Layer menu, choose New, and choose Background from Layer in order to convert that new layer into a white background. Now all we need to do is move the bird into a better location, and I'll show you how that works in the very next movie.